morning.
Good morning, everyone. We are a little bit early, so we'll be starting shortly. Looks like I have 9 participants, and it's going to be a good meeting. You can see the agenda. I'll have Brian bring it back up so that you can see the depth of the agenda. Thanks, Brian. Perfect. Thank you. We'll begin shortly. All right, just about a minute to go yet. We got about 11 participants. Looks like we got some big sky blue on the screen representing the OPI. Perfect. This meeting is recorded and it'll be up on our website. All the information that comes from today will also go out to all of the participants that are listed. And we'll make sure then that if there are any questions, our contact information is there as well. So welcome. It's a beautiful day across our state. There is other meetings that are occurring. We've got the Board of Regents that are happening tomorrow and the following day in Havre. And we also have a joint meeting with the Board of Regents and our Interim Education Committee, as there are 4 meetings at the Capitol regarding our interim committees that are outside of the budget, I should say. We've got transportation, we've got energy and telecommunications, we've got local government, and SNAP. There's one more that is happening. So we're really, really busy here at the agency. Last week was a great meeting with the in Great Falls with the Board of Public Education. I was very pleased that they accepted the flexibilities, quality yet flexibilities when it comes to teacher licensing. We have on the agenda, you'll see on number 9, Dr. Mergel is going to share a little bit more regarding Chapter 55 and Chapter 58. And we have some welcomes that I'd like to do at this point. So at this point, I have Chris Sinrud. If you would like to show yourself, that would be great. Chris is our CIO. He is the one that is leading the charge for data modernization. And Chris, if you'd just like to say good morning, that would be perfect.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be here and excited to take on that
data modernization project. So it's going to be great things to come for OPI and the state of Montana.
Thank you, Chris. And his background, he comes from the county as well as from the city here in Helena, and has a great understanding of the responsibility of the dollars, of the federal dollars that we're using for this, that were given from to us from the legislature as well. I see we have Mr. Williams on. JP, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Superintendent. Good morning, everyone. Great to see you. What a wonderful opportunity for Montana to move forward with education.
Yep, excellent. We're looking forward to when you can come here. We know you're closing up your school year there in Butte, and what a great celebration it is to make sure that this past year of learning crosses that finish line with great diplomas, as well as opening the door for the next year's students. So welcome. With that, let's go ahead and jump into it. Wendy Fons, if you could give us an Ian's update. This is a federal allotment that has to deal with our non-publics. Thank you, Wendy. Oh, let's go ahead and unmute you.
Sorry about that. On the Ian's update side, we have done the allocations for the second round of funding, and those have gone over to FACTS for procurement. So all of the entities who have applied for that are creating workbooks and will be able to purchase through that process, and that seems to be going well. I know that they have some office hours available for applicants, and they're working with FACTS to go ahead and do the purchases that they want to help with the learning this summer as well as in the fall. So that's going well. The second item that I have to share is on the summer programming. I guess I should ask, are there any questions with regards to Ian's? I know we have some people on that. Steve, I see that you're there. I didn't know if there were any questions. No? Okay. I'll move forward on to the summer programming. The summer grant for the enrichment program will be open tomorrow morning. It will close on the 7th, and we will be sending out notices to everybody by the 10th of June. I know that that is heading into June, and schools will be ready to use those funds at that point. So that's our timeline at this point. The items that we're going to be looking at as those applications come in, the grant itself will be an e-grant. And the items that we're looking at are the 40% low income qualifying. The organization does need to have had some experience with summer programming in the past. The focus on this grant is math, and there will be a requirement to do a pre and post testing as part of that programming effort. We will not be targeting the pre-existing services, so we're looking to not duplicate what's already out there in the community. Demonstrated partnership with funding and programming and staffing is highly encouraged, as is evidence-based programming effort. So part of the application process allows applicants to upload and to support their evidence-based comments about how they're going to provide the service, and the goals and objectives demonstrated into a connection into the fall. So we're really looking at this summer grant as being an opportunity for entities to demonstrate how they can partner and create a wraparound service for all students in Montana, rather than separating it out. So that bridging is important. As we look forward into that application process, we're giving priority to those that do not already have a federal funding grant process, so they don't have a Century 21 or other federal programs in it, and the base allocation will be $15,000. So we hope to be able to turn those around pretty quickly once entities apply by the 7th, and you can submit before the 7th, but on the 7th we will be closing it, and then on the 10th we'll be notifying with regards to those who've been awarded the funding. Are there any questions?
Hi, Wendy. This is Erin Lipkind in Missoula County. With regard to the requirement that a district has had 3 to 5 years of past summer programming experience, is that a hard and fast rule The district I'm referring to is Woodman Elementary School. We have 1 year of experience last year using our ESSER funds to begin a summer school program, but we certainly don't have the 3 to 5 years of experience.
So we are, as the application gets rolled out, that is something that we're going to be using as our first process. So as these applications come through, it is a 3 to 5 year. We tried to tag in prior to COVID so that we'd be able to pick up entities that maybe had done summer school programming before COVID hit. So it's not a 3 to 5 year continuance within this COVID standing. It could have been prior to that. Also, part of the way to pick up some of these requirements is to work in partnership with other entities. So with regards to your organization, maybe not having done summer school per se programming this last, 3 to 5 year cycle, you may have done it in the past. So it's really looking at entities who've had that experience working with the uniqueness of summer programming.
Okay, so it sounds to me like for my organization, it may not be a possibility for this upcoming year just because of the short turnaround time for the grant. But if I don't apply this year, would that exclude me from applying if these funds are available in the future and I have time to secure partnerships?
Absolutely. You can definitely apply for future years. So that's part of why we're doing the 15,000 at the beginning, is we want to reserve funds for the next year that comes about. So absolutely. And as a matter of fact, you can even apply now and have that be part of the process so you can look at it.
So I can apply saying that we're looking at down the road at next year when we're able to build those partnerships because we have the spring or the winter to do so. Okay, thanks so much, Wendy. You've been greatly helpful.
And anyone is welcome in that question with partnership. I know I've had some of those questions come up. There are a variety of different partnerships that can be formed. So feel free to reach out with a phone call or an email, and I'd be glad to help with that process. Any additional questions on that?
Thank you, Wendy. The other part that I want to share is her contact information, and this document that you see will be coming after our meeting here. So look for it in your email, as well as it's on our website. Perfect. Thank you. Any other ESSER updates, Wendy?
That's where we are right now. We are updating the website. So you're going to see some additional information that we're putting out there. Especially, we're not removing anything. So there will be information under the other resources, but we're continuing to update with new information to make sure that it's on the website for you, so it's accessible at any time.
Thank you, Wendy. One of the things I want to shout out to our partners that are here, we had 41 million that was given to Montana very early on in the spring of 2020. Of that 41 million, there is about 7 million that is left to be expended. They've been allocated out, but that has not been expended. 2 opportunities, if that does not happen by October of this year, means that it can be reallocated to all the schools within the ESSER grant process, or it's remitted back to the federal government. So we are encouraging all of our ESSER LEAs to make sure that they have the opportunity to expend that first bucket. And we're personalizing our relationships and our reach out to make sure that those schools have that opportunity. There's been 0.6 billion total, as well as county dollars, as well as possibly impact aid. We want to just make sure that that first bucket does get expended before October 1. So thank you, Wendy. Her information will be following here as well. Moving on then, Bitsy. Bitsy's going to discuss our single sign-on. Bitsy is a contractor with the OPI and has been working at the OPI longer than I think I have been, but she's got a great opportunity that's part of the data modernization. Bitsy, if you could share, please.
I will. Just before I share my screen, just a little bit of background on this, if I can give that. I've been doing IT over here in the school nutrition programs for a number of years, and recently was asked if we could help the OPI as an agency implement a single sign-on capability for the OPI agency, but the customers as a whole across the state to simplify, make things more efficient, make things a little easier on all of us, and be operationally sound, so that we can all have I'm trying to share my screen here at the same time I'm talking, so that's always a little bit of do you see the OPI secure portal up on your page?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Okay. So we're all familiar with, I'm sure, having all these, links across the top of the page and other bookmarks down here, and our memories where we have to remember all these logins. Well, what we're trying to do is, for the systems that the OPI can control, we would like to have a single sign-on capability available. So that means one URL personalized for you, for your own portal, so that you can access all your applications without having to, in a secure fashion, of course, without having to go to 50 different URLs or 4 different URLs or however many systems you access that the OPI controls. There was an inventory done for data modernization. Then it looks like we have to address about 50 applications. Of course, not everybody uses every application, so that's another little thing that we have to analyze and distribute the proper applications to people. So without further ado, I guess I'll show you a little bit. The primary reason for me being here is to show you that the demo that we have available at this point. We started this project a couple of months ago, and had to build all the foundation beneath it. This doesn't change the applications that you work in, the systems that you work in, like travel and contracting and Montana Tribal Resource Guide, distance learning, direct cert application. Doesn't change the essence of those applications. It changes how we get into them. So just to look at a few things on the OPI secure portal, we want this to be we want it to be intuitive. And we've thrown a few users in here that didn't know what we were doing, and they found it to be quite intuitive. So that's so far so good. Excuse me, we'll take it to a greater audience and see what kind of feedback we get there. But just to show you a few things that are on this screen before I actually log in and show you the insides of after you log in. You'll have a username and a password. And if you've and then the username should be what you're used to for logging into your applications. The password may be different, and you will be given information about how to do this. There's a capability on the portal to reset your password that takes you into an automated password reset and walks you through how to do that. It uses your email that's attached to your username to send you a verification method. So it's a secure way of creating your password. The state standards have to be followed. 12 characters in length, expires every 60 days, to keep this whole portal secure. We also are incorporating user request forms. So if you want access to a system, or your staff want access to a system, here is where the user access request forms can be found. And just as some system owners, so every system at the OPI has an owner that is sort of responsible for it. For like school nutrition, it's Christine Emerson. For SPED, it's Ann Rainey. That owner of that system may have a user access request form that they want you to use. And we're just putting user request forms here for convenience, not to supersede what a system owner may want to use. We'd hope to keep it up to date. Sometimes that doesn't occur. So this is just for convenience, not required to use them. We've also created an FAQ. If you get confused as to what's going on the portal, you can open this FAQ and look for content that might answer your questions. This is some of our initial structure. So what I'm going to do, we have a test user, DCA9, that I'm going to use for this demonstration. And if I remember the password right, we will have success logging into the portal. And because this is our test user, DCA9 has a lot of applications. And this is one way we can see that the roles are working the proper way. So when I log in as DCA9, the portal appears, and hopefully you can see that. I don't know how fast the feed is happening, but you can see that we have numerous applications that are already converted to single sign-on in our test environment. Nothing has changed in production yet. We're not going to do that until we go through some user acceptance testing in-house and out-of-house. We have started this process with some of our smaller applications, some internal, some that also reach external to the agency, so that we can work out any kinks prior to introducing this to a larger population. Things seem to be going well. We have a kink here and there, but that's the nature of IT projects, and we've been able to resolve them all so far. So let me show you with single sign-on. You see, these are all the applications that DCA9, user DCA9 has access to. If my password was about to expire, starting at about 10 days, you'll see a message up at the top that says your password is going to expire in 10 days, and then tomorrow will be 9 days, and the day after 8 days, with a link to change your password inside your portal here, not just the reset password on the front page. So you can keep track of that and update and change your password before it expires. You can change your password anytime with the reset password link. So that'll give you an idea that it's going to expire. If it does expire, the other page I was on the portal, it won't tell you that the password is expired because that's not a secure method for hackers. You don't want to let them know what the problem is. So we tuck it in here. We tuck a message inside your portal so you can keep track of that. Outside the portal, you would just get a message that says you can't be logged in. And it might be a typo. It might be you forgot your password, whatever. So you can reset your password and get in then. So in single sign-on, the idea is now I can click on these links and it will take me into the application without having to log in again. So distance learning, for instance, if I click in here, it goes right into the app, and the app looks just like it always did, except there's no login page. If I log out of here, I go back to the portal, and then I can click into, say, a Montana Tribal Resource Guide. And I can go around and work in my application just as normal. So you see how that's working. If I go into, I can go back into contacts. And again, same kind of thing. The system just looks the way that you're used to seeing it if you use any of these, and you go back. And now we have a large population that uses direct certification application. This one, the reason we started doing this single sign-on is because in school nutrition, we had put in sort of a single sign-on. It was more of a same sign-on. So you see, we come into DCA, if any of you are familiar with that, right into the page without the login page. So you can see how this is working operationally in test. So this is real life stuff we're seeing in our test environment, and it's so cool. I'm so excited about this because it just seems like the right thing to do for the customers, for the agency as a whole. These applications here that have the gray background, those are ones that have not been converted to single sign-on yet. They're still in process. Plus we have, 35 others that we haven't converted yet either, but they aren't even on the portal yet. So it's a multi-step process to make this happen. So if I were to click on GEMS, for instance, GEMS takes you to its login page where you'd have to log in again. With your usual credentials that you've always logged into. So we've tried to highlight those so people know which ones they might have to log into a second time. Our goal is to make all of these single sign-on capable, like the others that I showed you. And some we house in OPI, so it's easier for us to get into the code and do that. Others of them we have to work with a vendor on to have them update it to SSO. So TMT is the new MSIS. It's planning to go live, I believe, in June still. And single sign-on for it is going to be a phase 2. so that we can make sure everything is stable and working for everybody for the important work that you have to do. And then we'll convert it to SSO later in the summer, early fall. That's tentative. Don't take any of the dates that I throw out here as absolute gospel. They can possibly change. We have to work with the vendor on that one. It could be that we have an application or two that we cannot get into single sign-on at this time, but as we go through the data modernization project, that will be a key thing that we will do as we update systems, is to integrate it with single sign-on. So you have a sign out button up here at the top. Also, all the state standards for automatic sign out, it'll log you out after 30 minutes and so on. If I sign on as myself now, this is the beauty of it. Well, part of the beauty of it. I think there are a lot of beautiful things in this, honestly. If I might be a little biased, but I like it. If I can remember my password, if I log in as myself, I don't have access to too many applications, but you can see my portal is personalized for just me. We are working with the vendor on maps already, and that is supposed to be single sign-on by June 30th. And AHA is something that I just use and wanted to test it out. So that's another thing is our plan is to roll this out. We're going to get as many in single sign-on as we can before there's a point at which we have to move things to production, so that we have some apps that can't sit in the test environment very long, and we want to be able to move them quickly from test to prod. So we're hoping over the summer that we're rolling this out and have most things done. We have some systems we can't mess with until they're out of their busiest times. So that could be November. Some of them are January. So that's why we've given ourselves till next spring to get this completely rolled out. But for the most part, we hope to have it, like I said, by the fall. So if single sign-on has happened for your apps, if you are on notice I'm on another web page right now. If I try to go into my direct certification system test system right now, it takes me to the portal. So my page has been redirected because this has been converted to SSO. That's what will happen if you try to log into using your old URLs for the systems that we can move to single sign-on. You will be redirected to this portal. And you'll know that you need to, it'll take you to the login page if you're not logged in, but because I'm logged in, it took me to the inside part of my portal. So very brief overview. I hope that was short enough for the meeting. So
any questions you might have for Bitsy? I know this might seem granular, but I want you to understand that we are serving our customers, making sure that there's ease of access as well as not duplication, because time is so precious. Bitsy, thank you. And more is going to happen. You'll get more acknowledgement of when these things go live. And I'm sure we'll do a webinar on how to go exactly through this, as Bitsy has done here today. This information will also flow to you after our meeting today. Bitsy, thank you. I appreciate our conversations that we have. Perfect.
I do too. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Let's move on then. We have Chris Noel. She's got two opportunities that she's going to share. And she's going to share about the report card. Thank you, Chris. And then after that, she's going to talk about the data survey. Morning, Chris.
Sorry, I had to find my unmute button. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you all today. I always appreciate talking with our partners in the field. Today, I have as the superintendent mentioned, two things to talk about. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is the 2021-2022 report card. As many of you may be aware, the last 2 years in education has presented some unique challenges. One of the outcomes of those challenges has been that we have sought waivers and other opportunities to give flexibilities to our schools. And as many of you know, that has impacted what is on the report card for both last year and this year. For example, because we didn't have an assessment in 2020. There's no way to run comparisons across scores from 2020 to any other year because those scores simply don't exist. So this year, as we were putting together the report card, we did our very best to make sure we honored every waiver and every policy and every request that we had. That said, we did realize that there were a few things that we could touch up or fix or add to the report card to make it more useful to our stakeholders, more useful to the field, and more useful for making decisions for students as we come out of the pandemic and think about what is best for kids. So what I'm here to tell you about today is that our 2020-2021 report cards are currently down. They'll be down from the website until sometime later in June when they will be re-released. They will be re-released by June 30th at the very latest. The superintendent has asked that we have them up a few weeks earlier than that, federal deadline. But our goal is to make sure that on that day when those report cards go back up, they have actionable information about student data and school funding that will be more useful to the stakeholders in the field than what we had previously released. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Superintendent?
No, thank you, Chris. We just want to make sure that we get it right, number one, and that our federal partners are watching us as they watch all the rest of the states. So, but we're also wanting to make sure that, as Bitsy has shared about a single sign-on, looking to see as the portal of the report card for more transparency with ESSER as much as what the requirement of ESSA is. Thanks, Chris.
Yep. Do any of you have any questions about this, what we are doing with the report card, what it means for you, or what you can expect? Excellent. If anybody has any questions after the meeting today, I'm happy to connect about that. But I have something else to share that's really exciting, and that ties into what Bitsy was talking about, and that is that we are working towards this goal of data systems modernization. We know that it is essential that our systems are useful to the end user, and that means useful to the end user when the data is being submitted to us, and useful to the end user when data is being received back from us. And in order to best meet that goal, we sent out a survey recently. I know I saw some of your names on there as respondents to the survey. So I'm just going to talk for a few minutes, not a long time, but about the survey, about what we did with it and how we plan to use it. So first, I'll tell you a little bit about how it was designed, tell you about who responded, what they told us, and give you a couple of examples of what the data looks like. I'm not going to dive into the full data set today because this is just a preview, but I do want to make sure this group is aware of it. So we have funding from the legislature that is intended to modernize our data systems. On April 29th, we distributed a survey to get feedback, and we will use the results to guide our work as we continue to expend that money that we have from the legislature. We will use this data to understand what's most important to the field, what our end users are most desperate for us to do to make sure that these systems are working for us, and what our end users want to suggest to us might make things even more functional or useful. Within the survey itself, we allowed people to remain anonymous or give their information. We did require everybody to tell us what their role is in education so that we would be able to contextualize their data. Each respondent then identified which systems they use, and then they were only presented questions about those systems, very similar to what Bitsy just showed you, that if I don't have a login for a system, it just won't even show up on that screen because I don't use it. I don't need to clutter my view. We did the same thing on the survey. We removed the systems from the survey that individual respondents indicated they do not use. And we saw a pretty decent response rate for a survey at this time of year. We had 143 responses when I ran this data. The survey is still open. More people can respond. And I'm really encouraged that we saw the largest response from school or district business staff. These are people who self-identify as secretaries, as clerks, as people who work in a business office somewhere for a district. Those are the individuals who spend the most time in our data systems. And so that was our highest number. The next things beyond that were district administrators, district technology staff, and school building administrators. Again, we saw that we were getting the bulk of our responses from the people we know to be our common users. However, we only had one school district board member or trustee respond, and we had a pretty low response from our special education staff. because that is a unique system that is used specifically for reporting data about our special education students. We will kind of continue to redistribute for a little bit longer, trying to collect more responses for some of those respondent groups. Looking at this, you can use the chat to answer this, but do you see anything that would give you a concern if you were a legislator and we're saying we're using this survey to try and make decisions about how to spend the money? Do any of the levels of response here give you pause or concern about whether this data might be valid? Are there any of these groups that you would encourage us to solicit more data from? I'm going to ask that question again in just a minute. And so I'm going to let you sit with that. You can drop it into the chat. I will collect out of the chat as information that we will consider going forward if you drop in any thoughts about who's missing. McCall, the other respondents are all people that cannot be clumped into one of these groups. We had a lot of county superintendents that I actually moved those into district administrator, because for our purposes, that's a very similar role here. I actually broke out school counselor. I took everybody who self-reported as school counselor out of other and made them their own group because they were large enough. And so you can kind of know then that this is sitting at about 10 people who gave some information that didn't fit into any of these categories, and it's less than 10 people right now. And it was just one person per category. So we will continue to clean that up. That's a great point. And JP, yes, we are going to re-solicit from SPED. Specifically, that is one of our areas of focus in re-soliciting, and the SPED co-ops are one of the places that I think we'll reach out to this time to say, we'd really like to hear more about what it's like for you to work with data systems that relate to this data set. When we look at the system use, this one, you can see this is how many people out of that 143 said they used each system. You can see every single person uses the OPI website, and almost everybody who responded to this survey uses the general portions of Infinite Campus. We have Infinite Campus SPED listed separately, and again, that's where we're looking for that targeted feedback for that section of that application. We can see that we had the lowest responses around the very targeted thing of the CSIP application. We have a few people who wanted to talk about other systems that we had failed to name. But in general, we can group these into high priority, mid priority, and low priority systems. We will continue to use that logic around our grouping as we re-solicit more information, such that when we're going to the legislature, we are able to say we focused on the systems that our users use most often. We made sure those systems were taken care of. Looking at this, thinking about these systems, does this look right? Do we have the right systems for our high use, medium use, and low use systems? Or is there something here? Is there something here that you think we actually probably need more data because that system should have a higher response count based on your experience in schools? And again, we'll pull that out of the chat. And so if you wanted, if as we're sharing this, if there's something that occurs to you about where we really should be honoring the expertise in the field and gathering more data, we are very happy to have that feedback. The way that the data is looking, I'm just going to show you the current data profile for those top two, the OPI website and the Infinite Campus. And so when we look at the OPI website, we ask 4 questions. Does it have all the functions and capabilities you expect? Is it easy to navigate and locate the data that you're looking for? How many times have you had to create a ticket? I will be clear that strongly agree means that I have not had to make one very often, and disagree means I had to make a lot of them. I admit that we need to add to this slide that key. And then I'm satisfied with the overall reliability. We can see that in general, people are favorable about the support they get from our website and the functions and capabilities. And if we were to solicit further feedback, we can probably guess here we'd hear about navigation. Probably all of us might have guessed that that was how these questions would shake out. And so that feels reaffirming that we're seeing kind of the data looking similar to what we might have guessed. That doesn't mean that it's reliable data, but that is something that feels positive to us, that this kind of maps out in ways that are expected. If we look at, oh, and I said this, but we really see that strength, that the functionality, the capability of the website, the low user issue rate, we're seeing some positive things. If we were going to focus on something, our focus would be navigation based on this data. In Infinite Campus, we asked more questions about this one because Infinite Campus is actually a data entry system, whereas the OPI website is just a retrieval system. You can see we asked questions like time consuming. This looks backwards. That is because this is a negative response. If I said it is time consuming, if I strongly agreed with that statement, that is not a good thing. And so that's why this one is presented the other way. But I can see that overall, in general, I had more positive than negative responses to these questions, except whether or not I can update it and have these personalized reports. And so again, it's really interesting to us that we can look at this and say, the field is generally saying the functions we've built in are working, but it doesn't have flexibility that I might benefit from. And so again, we're seeing a pretty clear message from the field around this system. Again, this isn't closed yet. And so people who haven't been in to look at it yet can still go and respond to this survey. If you have not yet responded and you want to, you can visit. I actually just made a little bit.ly that's bit.ly data modernization MTOPI so that it's easier to type that survey in. We will continue to look at this. I already said, we're intentionally looking for trustees and special education staff. Beyond that, we also have not yet pulled, we have IP address data in the survey. So we're going to be able to look at regional distribution of responses. And we're going to do a deep dive into each of the different data systems to make sure that as we head into the legislature, we really have a clear picture of the voice of the field. We really understand what our school leaders and school staff need from us in order for our data systems to be most functional. Any questions about our survey, about the results I just shared, or about how you can help us to know more about where we can grow?
Thank you, Chris. So if I'm understanding when this goes back out as a reflection from today's meeting, there will be an opportunity to fill out the survey. So I know we have our School Boards Association members that are here as well that come to our education advocates. If there is a way that we can amplify their voice throughout this, that would be great. Anyone else have any further questions of Chris and her great presentation? Thank you on both of those, with the report card as well as what we're working with data modernization. The next one, yes, JP.
I did have just one question. With those applications that we saw in the previous layout, how many of those are able to migrate to Infinite Campus for data transfer?
Yeah, so JP, I just typed a message. I saw that you sent that to me in the chat, and I'll happily answer that for everyone. Infinite Campus is the platform that we use at the state level for our student information system. I think you probably all know that. What you may not know if you don't work in special education, it is also where we house all of our special education data, all of our IEP data, all of our discipline data, all of that. We actually, JP, are meeting with Infinite Campus to have that discussion. What role do they play in data modernization? I don't think we know the answer yet to your question about could anything else be integrated there, but it is something that we are open to talking about with them to ensure that we're moving forward with kind of the best. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're using the best products that have already been designed to meet the purposes that we are working towards. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Infinite Campus is a tremendous tool. And when you get that data migration, it makes it so much easier for school leaders.
Yep. And so we are talking with them about, is there more that we could do there? And then I just, Shanna, I also saw your message and I will send a response back as well.
Thank you. So JP, we're going to give you some homework when you get here. Okay. Making sure that we have the best timeliness that we can deploy with information. Thank you, Chris, for both of those presentations and the reflections as well. We're going to move to Tammy License. We have a leader here, and Tammy's going to share about the Summer Institute that is back in person. We are invading the campus of MSU in June. So Tammy, please.
Thank you, Superintendent. So it's a very exciting time because our registration is going live in the next 24 hours. So it's kind of one of those big anticipated, kind of like getting concert tickets, but it's education, so it's more exciting, I feel like. So if any questions come up, I'll show you a couple different resources. I'm just going to give an overview of the Institute and what you can expect this year, and then I'll share some links in the chat that you can explore later. If I can get my PowerPoint to go. There we go. So we just kind of have a one-pager promotional tool. Registration will open tomorrow. It may open at midnight tonight, but hopefully those teachers are sleeping at that time. But so we'll be promoting that out through the Compass, through the Navigator, and through past registrations in the next 24 hours. So we actually have over 150 sessions. I didn't update that number on this original save the date. We're doing the Putting Montana Students First is our theme. So we just have a lot of sessions focused on ways we can support our educators in the field and support our students first and foremost. By supporting teachers, we're supporting students, and just really developing a lot of skills. This institute is part of our, it is an OPI statewide initiative, and it includes all units for the agency, but it grew out of our multi-tiered system of support grants previously. And so there's really still a strong theme to that multi-tiered system of support. We actually call it Montana system, or Montana tiered system of support now, and I'll share a little bit about that. I don't know if the superintendent introduced me. I'm the continuing education and technical assistance unit manager. I'm in the special education division. So we're excited to be working with JP moving forward. This previous work was previously in content standards and innovation, also shared a big role in it. So it's a big melding of a lot of different parts of the agency. So I hope you see that in the sessions and things I'll share today. So here's kind of the general schedule for the week. We go Monday to Friday. It's a half day on Friday. We kind of thought teachers might need some travel time, and educators and administrators enjoying the Montana summer. This is about the best week of the year in Montana is late June. So you can see we have quite a few sessions. Some of them I numbered. I guess I didn't get all the lunch and learns on there, but just a really full agenda, some really deep dives into topics through these 3-hour workshops. We have keynotes focusing on mental health and MTSS implementation, as well as a big focus on our tribal elders and youth, and then academic focus as well. And so we're excited to have some keynote names you might recognize from past work. And then I'll share out kind of we have a draft matrix, and then tomorrow when registration's live, you'll be able to kind of see the full agenda. So I'll share out kind of more detail on the schedule through the chat here in a moment. So we are at about 150 total sessions. The Montana Learn, Hope, Ready, and Teach initiatives, there's a lot of overlap, especially when we talk about multi-tiered system of support, where we're working on academic goals as well as emotional, behavioral, and student supports of that mental health. And so Montana Learn and Hope are the bigger categories of the sessions, but we also have elements of Montana Ready. And really the whole conference is focused on improving our teacher quality through high quality professional development. So even though Montana Teach has only a few sessions, the whole conference is dedicated to improving teacher quality. So we hope you'll see that through the sessions. These are some of the OPI sessions that are under kind of the main category they would fit would be the Learn initiative for improving academic achievement. So we have a lot on data. Using data meaningfully is a big part of the multi-tiered system of support. And so this first slide kind of covers some different things that include our data, as well as the literacy grant and how that connects to the multi-tiered system of support model. And I think Brian will share these slides after. If anyone needs them, I can send them to you, because I know it's going to go quite a bit of information here, but pardon me. So we have different things with our federal programs unit, our Indian Education for All unit, our content standards and instruction team, the special education unit, and our MTSS consultants will be presenting as well, doing a lot of work on how these tiered supports can apply to both academic and behavioral and the whole system at the school level. The HOPE initiative, I previously was in the coordinated school health unit, so the HOPE initiative is very close and near and dear to my heart. It overlaps beyond coordinated school health for that whole child approach. So we have quite a few things on childhood stress, relational and restorative practices, student voice, our tribal voice, making sure we understand some of the federal programs and ways we can support students with a range of needs for foster care, and Senate Bill 18, Christy will cover that. We have quite a bit, excuse me, on school violence prevention and whole child supports for school climate, So really just exciting, great things. We'll share out again more detailed descriptions, and with the agenda, the registration, you can get more information on descriptions of these sessions. So we're looking at many things here. Again, we've got our youth risk behavior survey will be covered, as well as vaping. A lot of hot topics happening in education right now. The state systemic improvement plan, as well as MTSS 101. If you're not familiar, when I say MTSS and Montana Tiered System of Supports, it's a great session to learn about that. And then we have some behavioral interventions through our consultants. So then the last two would be the READY initiative. These are a couple of the sessions that we have through our family and consumer science and CTE specialists, as well as we will have the Montana Teach booth, where Crystal and Virginia will be there to help teachers renew their licenses, take them through the system. So I believe it's not just a demo, but they can maybe renew their licenses at Summer Institute. It's end of June, so I'm hoping so, because I'll be bringing my license. If there's downtime, I can get it renewed there. I have everything ready to go, Superintendent. And then I did just want to highlight, I have these from to highlight the Montana Tiered System of Support, which is really the roots of this conference. It's had many names in the past. It's now Montana OPI Summer Institute, but you'll see a strong theme in the sessions on that Montana Tiered System of Support. We're excited to have Tessie Rose Bailey from AIR. She's been working and supporting the Montana project for many years. I noticed JP's on this call and others that were advocating for students with disabilities, and we have a lot of sessions focused on those Tier 3 needs at this year's conference. So we're excited for that, so that it does fit the range of all educators and helping all students in that tier, because these students they're not Tier 3 students, they need Tier 3 supports. And so this helps how we can best meet their needs. Some other big names we have coming in: Susan Barrett's the director of the Center on Social Behavioral Supports, but she's also at the PBIS Center. So previously this conference, many years ago, and sometimes a few people still call it MBI, but PBIS is Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. The Montana version was Montana Behavior Intervention or Initiative, actually, I believe. And so I'm excited to hear from Susan Barrett. She's a big name in the field. Bella Bukowski has done a lot of presentations on mental health in Montana. So we're really excited to look at the crossovers and how we can support our student wellness and teacher wellness. Matthew Burns has done some work interpreting Montana's dyslexia law, and he's been great providing some services and training to our CSPD. So we're very excited that Matthew Burns is coming out. And then Dr. Lori Newcomer works with us on our MTSS grant. And she's an expert in the field. Many years, it's kind of her life's work to improve systems for students and behavior. So she's one of our consultants and contractors on our grant. And so she'll be providing some functional behavior assessment and other training and supporting that work. Most of these are our MTSS consultants, but these are just some other sessions. A couple of these were shown earlier, but this is where we could see some overlap between other units and the MTSS work. And then here is my contact information. But I actually have a few websites to show you as well. So I thought I had them all open. And are you guys seeing my screen? I lost my green line. Okay. So on the main website, when we get the announcement that registration will be live, we'll add a link here. I'll work with Brian on that. But under educators, you can find the Summer Institute tab. It's already open here, so I'll just click there. Registration will open tomorrow, and we'll have a link to that conference registration page. We were getting a lot of questions around dorm rooms, parking, logistical things, college credits. So our educators can earn 2 graduate credits. So a lot of that's addressed through the frequently asked questions. The click here for more details is the flyer I showed you earlier. It's a pretty easy web address to get here. It's thank you to our IT staff that gave me a really nice website for just Summer Institute right there in the chat. So the registration page you'll be able to access. Just kind of a preview. It looks like an OPI page, but this is actually hosted by Montana State University. And it will go through all the details that folks will need to know about registration. There will be no on-site registration, things like that. The important questions people will want answered. The agenda is all electronic. Folks can sign up for sessions, add them to their personal schedule. They'll get all the renewal units electronically. So we're really going for a paperless conference. There will be some need for paper and worksheets and some practical pieces, but really the whole conference should be paperless. So you'll be able to kind of go through and add things to your own personalized agenda and get information. And so you'll be able to click into these sessions, and that's where you'll be able to get more information on the sessions. So I will also share in the chat. This is kind of a version of the schedule that it's not really in draft form anymore, but I am still making tiny tweaks to it here and there. But this is a kind of an overview where you can look at the week instead of just a different way to look at it. Some people might like a table to view things versus a list. So we have multiple modes for learning about the sessions. And then this will be kind of something easy for people to print as a schedule if they do like a printed schedule. So that's really where we're at in Summer Institute. There, I mentioned the booth that Crystal and Virginia are going to be manning for the Teach Montana booth. They will be available Monday through Thursday. We also have an exciting kind of co-occurring event. The OPI Leadership Academy will be presenting their capstone presentations on Monday as well. So that'll also be taking place at MSU, kind of co-occurring with our event. And then I'll stop sharing. And are there any questions about OPI Summer Institute? It's, I don't know if I said the dates, but it was on the slide, June 20th through 24th and at MSU Bozeman. And we are not, there's no virtual option. It's be there and really engage and build relationships and build your skills to help our Montana students.
Any questions for Tammy? Wow, Tammy, thank you. A lot of energy, a lot of work behind the scenes, and of course, a great shout out to our partners at MSU for us being able to participate with the great team that are there. Also, just want to highlight that we do have a lot with Youth Voice that's going to be here along with our tribal elders that Tammy had shared. Tammy, kudos. And, pat yourself on the back and the great team effort that is here. A lot of energy and effort toward this. And this, of course, is almost like a back to normal. Let's get together. Let's see each other. Let's embrace. Let's really talk about moving forward. Thank you, Tammy. All of these informations will come out to you in the reflections after our meeting. We have two more presentations. Chad, thank you for being so patient with us. Chad, if you'd like to introduce yourself, this has to deal with broadband deployment.
Well, good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can see my screen. I'm going to pull it up here in a second. I'm the state broadband program manager for Montana, and we had launched the Connect Montana program earlier this year. We just closed the application window April 29th for the ARPA funding that everyone's probably familiar with. That ARPA funding, in that funding, we allocated $266 million to help close the digital divide within the state of Montana. There's approximately 130,000 broadband serviceable locations that we've identified within the state. We've created a state broadband map, and in that map, we went down to the geolocation level where there was a building and an address, and we identified it according to 4 different criteria, whether or not it was served, unserved, underserved, or frontier. And we, when we opened up the window, and ended up receiving 80 different applications, as you can see here on this page, from 24 different service providers throughout 30 counties. In the map, what we've done is, if you go to the Connect MT website, you can see where we have a statewide broadband map link. I'm going to take you to that link right now. If you pull up the map and you look at it, you're going to see a bunch of different shaded areas. The purple shaded areas are all the locations where, or all the areas where someone has submitted an application to serve that area. Some of those locations overlap other areas, and so we have multiple providers that are pursuing opportunities within a certain area. By the end of July, we will have determined awards to which areas will be funded. As you could see on the previous page, we were heavily oversubscribed by at least 2 to 1 on different project areas. But one of the great things specifically to the school districts here is that we have a focus on community anchor institutions, and included in that are private schools and public schools. So what I've done is I've highlighted over here in the layer list to pull up private schools and public schools. And what you can do is, when you zoom in to a certain point, you'll be able to pull up and see individual locations, and the schools will be identified within those locations, so that you'll be able to pull up an individual address and determine whether or not that one is currently shown as being served by a provider. I apologize, it's a little slow in coming up because of the amount of data that is actually in the system. But you can see here by a certain address whether or not an area is served or unserved. And this will tell you the specific location that it is showing as served, which means that it is showing at receiving over 100 megabits per second down and 20 megabits per second up with low latency, which is the definition according to Senate Bill 297 currently. So this funding program is under the ARPA, and within the website, you'll be able to pull up and see individual application summaries. So if I'm going to take you to the previous page, if you go over here to apply, you'll see applications received. And when you pull up the applications received, you'll be able to pull up the summary of applications. And we have a spreadsheet that shows all project summaries for each individual provider. And so that gives you a general idea of what, who's applied where and for how much money and for how many locations they plan to serve. So that is a broad overview currently of the ARPA funding for the $266 million. And then this last Friday, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration and the U.S. Department of Commerce just released the notice of funding opportunities for the broadband, trying to remember, I call it the BEAD program. Everything's got an acronym. Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, which is a follow-on to the program that we're currently doing now under ConnectMT, which is to provide access to different entities. Nationally, they put $42.5 billion into this program. Each state is allocated initially at least $100 million. And then based off of a black box formula that is based partially on rurality, high cost areas, number of unserved population, they'll come up with a total allocation for what the state of Montana is going to receive sometime later this year, based on a similar map that the FCC is going to try to create, that we will have to vet and verify that those locations and methodologies that they use to come up with their number count of unserved locations is correct. But when you combine that, we will have a certain dollar amount that then we'll be able to use in a similar method of what we're just doing right now under the ConnectMT program to be able to deliver more funds to help close that digital divide. There are some unique differences between these two different programs, but one with the ARPA was delivered by the U.S. Treasury Department, so it has certain rules, but the U.S. Department of Commerce has different rules because they have a different methodology that they use to create their program. So that is one of a few different programs. One of the other programs that is very pertinent to the schools is the Digital Equity Program. The Digital Equity Program, again, there's a certain amount of money that is allocated to each state initially, and then there'll be a capacity planning that goes on with that, and then there'll be a competitive program that goes along with that. And the idea behind that is to help with not just access, but also affordability and adoption of broadband so that everyone can participate in this. So what we plan to do, the Department of Administration here within the state government will be responsible for administering these programs. We're going to be working with contractors to be able to help us develop a 5-year action plan throughout this summer. And we will have entities who we will work with who will do public engagement. And with that engagement, we will be required to go out and speak with communities, speak with stakeholders, and talk about these different aspects of access, accountability, or excuse me, access, affordability, and adoption. And so we would highly encourage the school systems to be a participant and the universities, both private, public, all stakeholders to participate in this public outreach program. We don't yet have the timeline because obviously with this just being released on Friday, we are frantically working to develop the contracting methodology that we're going to use to be able to get the right people on board to work with this program. So Director Giles here at the Department of Administration will be primarily responsible for delivering on these, and we'll be working with, like I said, outside contractors to help us deliver on these programs. But that's something that we will be looking into. One of the things that is very unique or different than currently what we have with our existing state law and existing program under ARPA, is that under the new program, we will have to open up the opportunity for all potential applicants to offer service. So we can't just restrict it to current service providers within the state of Montana. That's a fundamental requirement of the BEAD program. So having said that, there will still be a requirement if someone moves forward to say that they want to provide service, they have to show that they have the technical, financial, and managerial capacity to deliver on this service, and that they have to show that they have experience in delivering this service with 2 years of financial statements to prove that they've been sustainable in offering that service. So those are a few of the highlights of the new things that are going to be coming with this funding mechanism. So not only do we have the ARPA funding that will have awards announced hopefully by the end of July, but then we'll have a fresh new round of planning and a new source of federal funding to help support this effort as we continue to provide the rest of the 130,000 locations in the state of Montana that don't have service. So Superintendent, that's all I have for a presentation this morning.
Wow, thank you so much, Chad. And, you know, there's so much information that you just shared about, but it is about our opportunity. I wanted to share with everybody that is here that we have hired an entity here at the OPI that is networking with Chad and his great team at the Department of Administration to make sure that schools are at the table, not just at the table for the funding, but making sure that they are at the table for the access to be able to deliver quality education. So his information will flow back to you through the reflections of this. Chad, thank you. We appreciate A+ delivery today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you so much. We're going to conclude now with Dr. Mergel in sharing how we are with 55. Great shout out to the Board of Public Ed. Thank you very much for 57 with teacher licensing, but also on where we are with 58. Dr. Mergel, thank you.
You're muted, Julie. Great, Superintendent Arntzen, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to give a very quick overview of chapter 55, 57, and 58 and ensure that Brian sends over to you all after this meeting, this document, so that you can look at further detail. So in terms of chapter 57, as the superintendent had mentioned for educator licensing, on May 13th last week, the Board of Public Ed voted to adopt the superintendent's recommended changes to educator licensing. That means that these licensing revisions will be submitted to the Secretary of State for publication in MAR on May 27th, at which point they will become effective. Some of the flexibility licensing revisions include things from creating pathways to allow an educator to add an additional endorsement to their license, to expanding pathways to licensing beyond the praxis, including coursework GPA, student teaching portfolio, and years of experience. The new licensing system, Teach Montana, will reflect the new rules when it opens on June 1st. In terms of chapter 58, the educator preparation program standards that are used to accredit the 10 different preparation programs in the state of Montana is well underway and moving towards the end here, if you will. Last week at the Board of Public Ed, the draft proposal notice was shared with the board and the superintendent's recommendations were shared. There's lots of different components around conceptual changes that are included within chapter 58 to emphasizing more diverse clinical experiences, providing more flexibility where practical for districts to place and provide those clinical experiences for choice for both initial and advanced candidates, to ensuring that's a focus throughout all of the standards are personalized instruction, student well-being, whole child supports, and family and community engagement, and recognition and appreciation of tribal language and culture. Within all of the endorsement areas, which there are well over 30, we did add a new endorsement that's being recommended for English language development that's been separated from world language, things like renaming the endorsement title from students with disabilities to special education, and really looking at every individual endorsement for accuracy and relevancy. So more to come on that as that moves forward in July for the Board of Public Ed to authorize, publish the proposal notice, including the public hearing date as that moves forward. As that goes through, we're looking at an effective date of those rules taking place in January of 2023. In terms of Chapter 55 accreditation, we have lots of information on our website about both the task force and the negotiated rulemaking committee that have been working on Chapter 55 standards. The task force ends this week on Thursday for their final meeting. They have considered conceptual changes, topics from graduation requirements and high school credits to mental wellness to just the accreditation process to just separating a variance to standard for the charter school component. So those are some of those pieces there. The task force, like I said, is finishing on Thursday. The negotiated rulemaking has a virtual meeting tomorrow and then next week, and we're finalizing some time in June as we move forward with that timeline. This document will contain who's on the negotiated rule committee, a map of all the diverse places and roles that these folks play across our beautiful state. There's also in here the proposed timeline as we move forward. And of course, there's tons of information, like I indicated, on our website. You can go to the opi.mt.gov and right on that front page, find information about the agendas, the minutes, the summaries, the video recordings, and some of the documents that the groups have been working on. So Superintendent, that's all I have on updates for the chapters, and we'll be sure this gets over to Brian to share with the group.
Excellent. Any questions you might have of Dr. Merkel and how busy she is, and just a note out to her family to say thank you. You do have a daughter graduating, correct? Am I understanding that, along with all the good work that you're doing here at the Agency and for Schools?
Yes, we are very excited. She graduated from Carroll on Saturday, and it was a wonderful family celebration and a beautiful weekend. So thank you, Superintendent. We're very proud of her.
Exactly. So a lot of these information, well, all of this that you have seen today, and you've been so gracious with your time. Normally these meetings only last about 15 to a half hour. This one we took a lot longer. Thank you. We are working very diligently here, and we would like your input. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to us here at the OPI so that we can engage, that we can do better as we all serve our Montana schools and our students. Blessings to everyone. It is a celebration. We have a great school year that we can reflect on, and we have another one that is opening in the fall. Let's embrace, let's rejuvenate, take a deep breath, and of course, move forward. Thank you all. Please stay well.